Okay, this is the review for the Unit 7 test. I'm not going to complete every single problem, but I'll do a little sample of each one so that you at least know what to do, and then it's your responsibility to go look at the key to check your answers as you're doing it. Okay, so the first one that I'm going to do is going to be number 2. And I notice that I'm adding the polynomials. So the main thing I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to combine like terms. So combine like terms. Okay, so the first term that I see that's alike would be this negative 4x to the 4th y and the negative 3x to the 4th y. Together that gives me negative 7x to the 4th y. I also notice that this has a 14xy and a negative 8xy, so that gives me positive 6xy, and then I have these x's here, and I have negative 2x. So again, you're just combining like terms. So same thing on number 1, combine like terms. Alright, on 3 through 6, you'll notice that you're subtracting. I'll do number 3 for you, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so on number 3, I noticed the negative. Now here's the most important part. You have to make sure you you distribute that negative to the second set of parentheses. So what'll end up happening is this becomes a positive 2x squared y. That becomes a positive 10xy and a negative 7. So then at this point, I'm going to go back to what I was doing up here, and I'm just going to start combining like terms. So here, I notice I have an x squared y and a 2x squared y. So together, that gives me 3x squared y. I also notice that I have a positive 10xy and a positive 8xy, and that gives me 18xy. And then I also notice I have this negative 6 and this negative 7, and that gives me negative 13. So that's my final answer. Alright, I'll also do number 5. Number 5 is definitely a little bit more basic because you're only dealing with the x's and not the x's and the y's. So again, most important thing, you need to make sure you distribute this. All those signs become the opposite. The positive 5xy becomes negative 5xy. That becomes positive 6x, and then negative 8. So again, I'm just combining like terms. Here I see a 3x squared and a negative 5x squared, so that gives me negative 2x squared. I also have a 7x and a positive 6x, so that will give me 13x. And then I have a negative 1 and negative 8, so that gives me negative 9. And there's your answer. So for 4 and 6 and 1, you should be able to go look on the key and check your answers once you've done those on your own. Alright, on number 7, that's definitely one of the more basic ones. So on number 7, all you're doing is you're multiplying that 3x by the 2, by the x, and the negative 7xy. Now, I need to make sure I'm adding my exponents as I'm doing this. So 3x times 2 is going to be 6x. 3x times x, notice you have 2 of them, is going to be 3x squared. There's a 1 there and a 1 there, that gives you 2. And then 3x times negative 7x squared gives you negative 21x cubed. Again, because there's 1 there and 2 there, so it becomes cubed. Now, to write this in the correct order, I would do negative 21x cubed plus 3x squared plus 6x, and that would be my final answer. Okay, these 3 are all very similar. I'll do number 8 because it's definitely the more difficult one. So on this one, you could use what's called the box method, or you could just multiply each term. I'm going to multiply each term, so I'm going to take that 2x, multiply it there, and then I'm going to take that 5y, and I'm going to multiply it here, here, and here. Okay, so for the 2x, I would do 2x times 3x squared, and that gives me 6x cubed. 2x times negative 4xy would give me negative 8. I've got 2 x's, so squared y. 2x times 2y squared would give me 4, the x, and then the y squared. Alright, now, for the 5y, 5y times 3x squared would give me 15x squared y. 5y times negative 4xy would give me negative 20xy squared. And then 5y times 2y squared would give me 10y cubed. Alright, so I'm going to go back to adding where I start combining my like terms. I notice that I have some x squareds here, and I have an x squared y. So that would give me 7 x squared y. I also notice that I have xy squared here and an xy squared here. That's a negative 20 and a positive 6. So that gives me negative 16 xy squared. And then these won't combine because that's an x and that's a y. So I'm just going to rewrite them. So plus 6x cubed plus 10y cubed. Now, you could also do the box method on 9 and 10. I think I'll show you one of those. I'll do number 10. So on number 10 for the box, you set it up. It's going to be a 2 by 3, 2 by 3. So x would go here, negative 5 would go here. This is where your 3x squared would be, your negative 7x, and your 2. And then I'm just going to do it almost like a Punnett square where you start multiplying all the boxes. So this first box would be 3x squared and x, which gives you 3x cubed. X and negative 7x would give me negative 7x squared. X and 2 would give me 2x. 3x squared and negative 5 would give me negative 15x squared. Negative 7 and negative 5 would give me 35x. And then 2 and negative 5 would give me negative 10. And then I'm just going to go through and I'm going to combine like terms. I notice that these are alike, and I also notice that these are alike. So my answer here would be 3x cubed. I'm going to combine these. That gives me negative 22x squared. That gives me 37x, and then minus 10. Okay, on 11 and 12, I'm only going to do number 11. Just remember that you're not distributing this 2. This does not become 9x squared plus 4. This is a no, okay? What you're actually doing here is you're doing 3x plus 2 times 3x plus 2, okay? So I'm going to multiply the 3x here and here. It gives me 9x squared plus 6x. And then 2 times 3x is also a 6x. And then 2 times 2 is 4. See, if you do it this way, you're leaving out all those middle terms. You're leaving out the 6x's, okay? So your final answer here would be 9x squared plus 12x plus 4. Again, number 12 is the exact same way, so you can work this one out on your own and then check the key. Okay, with the dividing, so on these here, this definitely takes a little bit more time. This is the last thing that we learned. And it's a little tricky at first. Once you get the pattern, it's not that bad. All right, so on this one, I'm going to have x minus 2 on the outside. And then on the inside, I'm going to have x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4x minus 12. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to ask myself is what do I multiply x by to get x cubed? Oh, well, I multiply by x squared. Now I need to make sure I multiply the x squared by both things in here. So x squared times x is x cubed. X squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared. Now I like to put parentheses around this. So I remind myself that I have to distribute the negative here and here. So this negative turns into a positive. Okay? And these first terms will always cancel out. So this gives me 5x squared minus 4x. Okay, now what do I multiply x by to get 5x squared? 5x. 5x times x is 5x squared. You always want these to be the same. Okay, so they can cancel out. And then 5x times negative 2 is negative 10x. Again, I'm going to subtract these. These will cancel out. This will turn into the opposite, so a positive. So now I have 6x, and then I'm going to drop the negative 12, just like I dropped that there. Okay, what times x will give you 6x plus 6? 6 times x is 6x. Again, those always cancel out. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. And you'll notice that also cancels out. So your answer here is x squared plus 5x plus 6. All right, I think I'll do number 14 with you too, because these are a little bit trickier. So on this one, you've got x plus 5 on the outside, x squared plus 10x plus 18 on the inside. All right, so again, what can you multiply x by to get x squared? You can multiply it by x. And then again, I got to make sure I multiply it by both of those. So x squared here and 5x here. Okay? First terms always cancel out. That positive will turn to a negative, and that gives me 10 minus 5, which is 5x plus 18. All right, what do I multiply x by to get 5x? Multiply it by 5. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 5 is 25. Oh, I can tell I'm going to have a remainder here. Okay, so I subtract them. This positive will become a negative, so that gives me negative 7. So my final answer here is x plus 5 minus 7 over x plus 5. Now remember, on these, not so easily with the ones that have the remainder, but on this one, if you wanted to check your answer to make sure you were right, you would just take that x minus 2 and multiply it by your answer. And once you multiply it here, you should get right back to that. Okay, and that's a good way to see if you're right. All right, these down here, I'm only going to do number 15. So on these are more basic. All you're doing is you're dividing the coefficients, so the 12 and the 6 and the 6, and the negative 36, and then subtracting the exponents from the variables, okay? So here, I got 12 divided by 6 is 2. And then here, and I'll kind of give you a visual. See how there's 3 x's on top here, and there's 1 on the bottom here? So you have 1 that can cancel out, so then you have x squared left. That's why you subtract. 6 divided by 6 is 1. And then again, I've got an x squared, I've got an x, they cancel out, so I only have 1 x. Technically, I really don't need that 1. Negative 36 divided by 6 is negative 6, and again, the x's cancel out. So that's your final answer. So on 16, you can do that one on your own and check it on the answer key. All right, on the back, this is your factoring. I'm only going to do 2 of these with you, and then again, you check the answer key. So on number 17, you'll notice it has a minus. So this is where we're doing that SOAP, same sign, opposite, always positive, okay? So on this one, it's a minus, so I'm going to use the same sign, opposite, always positive. And we're going to give you this pattern on the test, okay? All right, so I'm going to take the cube root here. So the cube root of x cubed is x. The cube root of 27 is 3. Okay, so this is my a and my b. A minus b. So here, all I'm going to do is square my a. So that gives me x squared. I'm going to square my b. That gives me 9. And then in the middle, I just put these together. I just multiply them. So 3 times x is 3x. You ignore all the signs. So don't make that a negative 3x, because the b is actually a positive 3. Okay, I'll do number 19 with you. So again, notice how it's a positive sign. So I'll always have the same sign, then I'll have the opposite sign, and the last sign is always that positive. So the cube root of x cubed is x. The cube root of 1 is 1, because 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. This is my a, and this is my b. I'm going to square my a, and I'm going to square my b, and then I'm going to multiply those. 1 times x is x. And that's my answer. X plus 1, x squared minus x plus 1. All right, down here, I will do 21 and 22 with you, and then y'all can do the other ones on your own. So the first thing you always want to look for is always look for a GCF. Is there a GCF? So yes, on 21 there is a GCF. I can see that they all have a 2 in common, and I can also see they have the x squared in common. Now, in case you don't understand that, let me show that what I mean by that. So on this one, you'll notice that there's 4 x's. there's 3 x's on this one, and there's 2 x's on this one. So if I were to go through here, I could tell that this was a 2, 2, and 2. They have all of the 2's in common. So that's why I did the squared. All right, now I'm going to see what we have left in here. What I have left is I have x squared minus x minus 2. Now, I can notice that this can be factored further. So because the because the a value is 1, I can do super basic factoring. So what two numbers will multiply to get negative 2 and will add to get negative 1? Oh, well, negative 2 times 1. Negative 2 times 1 would give me the negative 2, and negative 2 plus 1 would give me the negative 1. So my final answer is that greatest common factor on the outside, and then I'm going to use these two numbers, x minus 2, x plus 1. So again, you're pulling out the greatest common factor, and then you're doing the factoring just like we've been doing since first semester. All right, on this one here, I'm going to do factor by grouping. And the reason I know I can do factor by grouping is because there's 4 terms. So I'm going to group the first 2, and I'm going to group the last 2. So the greatest common factor of 8x cubed and 64x squared is 8x squared. And then on the inside, I would have an x, and I would have an 8. And then here, I'm going to put my plus sign. Okay. And then the greatest common factor of x and negative 8 is 1. 1 times x will give me back to that positive x. And positive 1 times negative 8 is negative 8. So again, these two parentheses must be the same. So my first set of parentheses will be what's on the outside, so 8x squared plus 1, and then x minus 8. All right, so again, I'd like for you to try those on your own and then check them on the key. All right, on 25 and 26, I'll do 26 with you, but 25 is the same exact one. So again, with perimeter, you're really just adding all sides. Okay, now you'll notice here they only have 2. Well, if I only do those 2, I haven't done the perimeter. I've only done half of the perimeter. So make sure you understand that if this side is that, this side also has to be the same thing. Same thing over here. Okay? And then I'm just going to start combining like terms. So I notice that this is a 3x squared y. That's a 3x squared y. Negative x squared y. Negative x squared y. So 3 plus 3 is 6. Minus 1 is 5. Minus another 1 is 4. So the first one be 4x squared y. All right. And then I'm going to combine all my xy's. So I notice I got a negative 2xy, 6xy, negative 2xy, 6xy. So 6 plus 6 is 12. Minus 2 is 10. Minus another 2 is 8. So positive 8xy. So that's the perimeter. And again, same thing here. You're just going to go through and combine all the like terms. All right, for the area down here. So for area, area equals length times width. So you're just multiplying the two. So on this one here, I would do 1 plus x times 2 plus 3x. And then I would FOIL it. So for instance, I'll actually do the box on this one because I know some of y'all like that. So on this one, if I do the box, I can put the 1 there and the x here, or you can put the x there and the 1. I can put a 2 here and a 3x here. And then I'm just going to go through and put the boxes. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times x is 2x. 1 times 3x is 3x. And 3x times x is 3x squared. And I notice that these two are alike, so I'll combine them. So the area of this one is 3x squared plus 5x plus 2. Okay? All right. The last part says match each operation to the appropriate law for exponents. So this one is just adding. And on this one, remember, you don't change the exponents, so it would be d. All you're doing is that you're looking that they're alike. So see how that's an x squared and that's an x squared? That just tells me that they're alike, and then I can combine the 2 and the 3, and that gives me 5x squared. All right, on subtraction, again, they don't change. all I'm looking for is that they're alike, so I can combine them. So that has an x squared, that has an x squared, so that would just give me negative x squared. All right, on multiplying, you do add them, okay? You add the exponents. So that would give me, and let me kind of show you why. So that gives you a 2, and you have an x and an x, times a 3, and an x and an x. So how many x's do you now have? You now have 4. So 6x to the 4th. All right, with division, this is where you subtract them, so that would be b. And again, let me show you why. So 2x squared would look like this. 3x squared would look like that. And then if you notice, these will cancel out, and your answer would just be 2/3. All right, I hope this helped you. It should have given you enough examples to kind of figure out what you need to do. It's your responsibility to look at the other key that's not the video to check your answers. And that's about it. All right, thank you very much.